Hi and welcome to Essential Kickboxing. My name's Pat O'Keefe and I'll be taking you through the techniques of kickboxing from this very first volume, offensive techniques, right the way through to the higher levels of the sport. My own personal journey with kickboxing started in 1974 when I met and trained under the great Steve Morris, a legend in British martial arts. Steve was a ferocious fighter and he taught me the value of strength and ferocity in attack. From him, I moved to Geoffrey Britton. Geoffrey was entirely different and the perfect counterpoint to Steve. What Geoffrey taught me was subtlety. I don't believe in the first 6 months of training I hit him clean. It was like chasing smoke. He was a teacher who didn't only talk about evasion, but lived it. To what they taught me, I've added my own experience across the years and tried to refine what I've learned and analyse it. I'm going to be asking you many times in these DVDs to look at your own technique, to deconstruct it, analyse it, drag it into the light of honesty and ask yourself, can I really do what I'm trying to achieve? As we work through these techniques, I'm going to emphasise a number of points. I'm emphasising them so that you can pick up on them and incorporate them into your own technique. In the words of the great Bruce Lee, add what's useful, reject what isn't, and add specifically that which is your own. We'll now move on to offensive techniques. We're going to start Essential Kickboxing Volume 1 by demonstrating stance and guard. The thing you should remember straight away is that guard means where your hands are and stance means where your feet are. We'll start with the basic stance. Your feet are one shoulder width apart. This gives you lateral balance. Your left foot is 2 foot forward and your knees are bent. This gives you balance to the front and to the rear. That's the stance taken care of. Now let's look at the guard. This first guard is called the full guard. Both hands come up to either side of the jaw and your arms are brought in close to the ribs to protect them. But as you can see, there's a clear shot through the middle of the gloves to your body. Therefore, at this point, you turn your body 45 degrees away from your opponent to prevent him having that straight shot, whilst at the same time keeping your head forward. This full guard is very aggressive because it leaves both hands free to attack with. It's the stance that you see most people and the guard that you see most people use when the fight begins. But there are others, and we'll look at the next one now. Half guard is a guard that's used in close. Your feet are exactly the same as full guard. The difference lies in the lead hand. Your feet still have a shoulder width. Your left leg is still 2 foot in front. The rear hand is exactly the same as the full guard, but now it changes drastically. The upper arm of the left arm comes down the side of the body to prevent a shot to the body. Your forearm lays across the stomach. And now the guard closes up so that the shoulder moves into the jaw and this hand tightens here. This prevents shots from the left or right or a shot to the body. The only position where you're vulnerable is in the middle, and that's taken care of by a momentary displacement of the rear hand to the front, and then it returns to the guard again. The half guard is a guard that's used close in. I'm going to bring one of my assistants in now, Sam, and he's going to show you, in conjunction with me, how the half guard works. Sam. Sam's going to adopt a full guard, and I'm going to adopt the half guard, and it will explain why we are changing our hands at this point. If he throws, for instance, the lead hook to the head, I've blocked it without moving my hand. If he throws the lead hook to the body, again, without moving my hands, I've blocked it. If he throws across to the head, again, I've blocked him. He has very few options because the very way I'm using my hands reduces his opportunity to attack. Guard and stance are fluid, transitory creations. They're meant to adjust to meet each changing opportunity, either to negate what your opponent's trying to do to you, or indeed what you're trying to do to him. Full guard, very aggressive. Half guard, a good way of closing your opponent down whilst in close. Next, we'll move on to the cross guard. Sam, please stay there because I'm going to use you again. When we come to a cross guard, at first it looks very defensive, but it can be used to launch a devastating attack. Probably the best exponent of a cross guard was the great Joe Frazier. He used the cross guard not when he was under pressure, but when he wished to create it. Let me show you the defensive use first of all. Once again, your feet are the same. Shoulder width and 2 foot forward. But the arms are radically different from either the full or half guard. The right arm comes across the stomach and the left arm comes across at chest height. You move your face forward so that your opponent cannot see your jaw and therefore cannot knock you out with that shot. Your body's covered by the arm, but you don't stand still. This is not a static stance. You use it with upper body movement. You turn, you rotate left and right, you bob up and down. Yes, you do present a square target to your opponent, but in actual fact, he can't hit you cleanly, so you can move in and destroy him. And that's what Joe Frazier used to do. He turned the defensive guard into a very positive attacking one. I'm going to get Sam to throw some shots at me now, using the cross guard moving in, and I'll show you the upper body movement with it. Okay, Sam. Okay. You can see how I flowed out of a defensive posture into an aggressive one. Used properly, the cross guard is a surprise weapon. You should practice it often till you feel comfortable with it. The next stance we move to is the angle guard. This is very, very unusual. It's halfway between a half guard and a cross guard and serves an in-between purpose. Let me show you. It looks to begin with like a half guard, but this left hand now drops down and this hand moves across to here. Now, look at me. What are you going to throw in the way of a shot? A jab, a cross, I'm covered. Left hook, that looks your best option, doesn't it? But I cover that by this movement here. So this guard, your hand is in constant rotation. Also, if you give him an opportunity to throw a technique, you open him up for a counter. But that's for a later DVD. We'll come on to that later. If I use an angle guard against Sam, when he attacks me, I'm going to get him to throw first a left hook and then a straight punch and show you how it works. Sam. By that very small movement from here to here, I'm pretty much covered. Remember, I use the term fluid transitory creations. You must move from guard to gain an advantage for yourself and to negate your opponent's opportunities. Used correctly, you can make things very frustrating for your opponent to hit you cleanly. The first technique we're going to show you is the jab. The jab is simple and economical. This makes it a very good technique to use in a fight. And I'll come on to the reasons why. But begin with, we'll start looking at what makes a good jab. We'll start from the full guard position. First of all, you step in 6 inches with your front foot. This puts body weight behind the technique. You should always think when hitting of your limb being a missile and your body weight being the warhead. The faster you can move your way in, the bigger the explosion at the end. So a 6-inch step taken positively gives real pep to your jab. Next, your passive hand, your guarding hand is here. Forearm here and your right arm close in to the jaw. As you punch here, your cheek touches your shoulder. That doesn't give you an opponent an overhand right opportunity as you throw the jab. And lastly, and this is extremely important, you must teach yourself to look along your arm like a gun sight. The reason for this is that under pressure against a big hitting opponent, some fighters get gun shy. And as they hit, they actually look away and open the entire thing up. So, step forward 6 inches, passive hand guarding, cheek touching that shoulder, and look along that arm like a gun sight. These make a successful, accurate jab. Once again, I'm going to use Sam to show you the application. Sam. This is the standard jab that I've just shown you. Here, right between the gloves. But your opponent won't stand still. He'll move in, he'll move away. Or he'll keep his guard so tight that the standard jab won't penetrate the guard. Now you've got to put a bit of variety into the jab. Sometimes you bend your knees and fire up. Sometimes you come up on your toes and fire down. Sometimes you'll step off to the left and fire at an angle, or to the right and fire at an angle. If your opponent is a southpaw with his right foot forward, Sam, there's a very subtle variation on a jab, because normally when you throw your jab, a southpaw leading guard will take your jab out of play. Very difficult to get through with a jab to a southpaw. But in actual fact, if you turn the fist, you rotate it as you throw it, it'll steer it around his guard, here. This very simple action corkscrews your punch and makes it very, very effective. The more variety you can get in your jab, the better, the more effective it will be. It will search out his guard. You should think of it like a snake's tongue, flicking in and out constantly. Now I've shown you the basic technique and a few of the variations and their application. I'd like to show you the jab to the body. Now there's a big sin with the body, and we'll address that straight away. If you do a normal jab and fire your hand down to the body, you're going to leave the lead side of your face exposed. And if your opponent throws a right cross, he's going to hit you clean. So you don't aim your hand down. Rather, you change height by bending your knees and move in exactly the same position as for the standard jab. Here. Now if he throws down, my shoulder guards, okay, and my head guards, and it makes it very, very difficult as opposed to that position. So, the basic, the variations, and the applications. Now let's see some speed and power. Frank. There are three components to speed, and although we're addressing this in the jab, these things are true of all hitting techniques, and I intend to repeat it throughout this DVD to drive the point home. One, there is reaction speed. This is the time it takes you to react to the opportunity to attack. Maybe his guard is misplaced, maybe he drops a hand through fatigue. You should see it and pounce on it straight away. This is reaction speed. Then there's limb speed. This is the technical speed at which your limb moves. That crosses the gap. And lastly, there's body speed, or footwork, the speed at which you move in to cover the distance between you and your opponent. If your reaction speed is fast, your limb speed is fast, but you're slow to get into position, you're slow. If your reaction's fast and your footwork's fast, but you're slow to throw the technique, again, you're slow. All three elements are needed. When we're practicing a jab, to begin with, it's quite common to just have the jab thrown at a static pad. Frank? So I adopt my guard position and throw the jab. This is fine to get the basics, but to make a jab alive, to make it useful, to make it a proper application, Frank is going to introduce timing and reaction speed. I'm not going to punch until Sam flashes the target up. Now, the gap between him bringing the target online and me hitting it is the judge of my reaction speed. The speed at which I cross the gap is my body speed, and finally, of course, my limb speed is how fast my hand moves. Let's see if that happens. So all three things go together to make a jab. Remember, it's simple and energy efficient. Used properly, it is a great tool. Now we move on to the cross. The cross is a straight punch exactly the same as a jab. What's the difference between the two? Well, my army sergeant described it to me thus. The jab is the can opener and the cross is the spoon that digs the meat out. It's a killing tool. It's one which you finish your opponent with. And there are several reasons why. The basic punch is thrown very similar to the jab. Your passive hand is still guarding the jaw and the edge of your ribs. This time, because you're throwing a rear hand technique, you're going to throw your rear foot in and not your front foot. And it moves in again about 6 inches. Once again, your cheek is touching your shoulder and you're looking along the arm like a gun sight. But you'll remember when we went into the full guard that your body was turned 45 degrees away. Now we're going to use that to put power into our technique. You're going to rotate around your central axis and put rotational power or torque into the equation. Here. So you're rotating, not just throwing it straight, you're rotating around your central axis. Here. This lends it tremendous power. Okay, let's see the application on Sam on one or two of the variations. With the basic cross, as we said, you step in with the rear foot, rotate your body, move your shoulder against your cheek and guard with the passive hand. When you hit the body, same as with the jab, you don't aim the hand down, but rather you bend your knees and move in. Here. There are two variations on the cross. The first one, you don't move your feet at all, and the power comes not from moving in, but from the angle of the shot. This is called a short right, and it's usually thrown close in from something like a half guard. From here, I just fire the hand straight through. Doesn't look like it's going to be strong. Wait till you see it on the pad. It's very, very unusual, and it's a very effective tool. Next is the overhand right. This is used against a sloppy jab. This is where the opponent doesn't remember to keep his chin down and lets it rise above the guarding shoulder. So Sam, if you throw me a slow, unguarded jab, you can see there that his chin's exposed. I'll roll to my left and slip, bring my right hand over the top and hit the side of his head. You can meet his attack as it comes in, here, and it's very, very effective, very strong indeed. Now let me show you some speed and power on the pads. Frank. Once again, we're going to show the basic cross. Now let me show you the short cross. Again, we did say you should look out for the power on this. It's unusual. You're not moving your feet, but you're still getting power. In close, again, from the half guard position. It's a very, very powerful shot. We'll come on to later in the DVDs how you apply that against an opponent. Lastly, the overhand right. This is used primarily against someone who throws a jab in a sloppy fashion and allows a gap to occur between his jaw and his shoulder. You capitalise on it by slipping to your left and looping the punch over the jab. It's a very strong shot, and you should always look for someone throwing a jab for the opportunity. When he drops that guarding chin, okay, rather when he drops that guarding shoulder, raises his chin, you should flash an overhand right straight in. Next, we're going to move on to a hook. Okay, we're now going to show you the hook. The hook is a curved punch meant to come around an opponent's guard. If you throw a cross or a jab at your opponent, he won't need teaching that all he has to do is to put his hands up in front like a fence. I'll show you with Sam. If Sam throws a jab or a cross and my hands go up here, effectively he cannot get through to the target area. That's how the hook was born. It's meant to curve around that fence. Let me show you the basics. There are 4 essentials with a hook. 1, the passive hand is guarding, the right hand. 2, you must rotate on the ankle and rotate your hip and shoulder as well. Very important. 3, don't bring your arm out in a big loop. keep it tight and let it come off your chin late. And 4, as you turn, you finish in this position with your cheek touching the shoulder and looking over your elbow at your opponent. This cuts down his opportunities to counter you. If you throw a hook here, yes, it'll be just as strong, but he'll see the target area. Here's where you need to be. Tight, tucked, able to see him, not able to be seen yourself. Okay, let's look at the application. Hands up, Sam. Because the arm is bent in a hook, logically it is a medium to short range technique. Here, you can throw it against the jaw or you can throw it against the body, once again by bending the knee. It's very, very important to remember that the lead side, the side you're going to hit with in this case, is kept relaxed. You're going to be rotating. That means movement. Tension is the enemy of movement. We've said that before. We're going to emphasize it. And the more relaxed you are, the faster the punch will move through. Okay, let's now show you some application on the pads. Frank. We're going to show this slowly to begin to emphasize the curving motion. One of the ways in which you get power behind a shot is to curve your body, and a hook is a very good example of that. As I twist here, I curve my body all the way behind the shot. This puts my body weight into the shot. Once again, body weight equals warhead. As Frank flashes up the pad, I'm going to hit it with a jab, with a hook. Okay, now there are some variations on a hook. You can throw a medium and even long range, but it's primarily short and medium. But there is one particular variation on a hook which is extremely powerful and which will knock your opponent out if you hit the target. Frank. If your opponent throws a shot at you and you duck down, your knees are bent, and that means there's a lot of stored energy in your leg muscles. If Frank sweeps one pad at my head and I go underneath it, here. Instead of standing up to throw my hook, I throw the hook as I stand, and all that energy comes up through the body and is delivered onto the target. Let's see it done fast. Frank will swing it at my head, I'll avoid the shot and hit with my hook counter. It's a very powerful shot, the spring hook, worthy of attention, and we'll come back to that in later DVDs. Okay, we're going to move you on again now to show you an uppercut. The uppercut is the next technique we're going to show you. The uppercut can be thought of as a vertical hook. It moves in exactly the same way as a hook, in that your leg twists on the side that you punch. The difference is instead of travelling horizontally like a hook, it travels vertically. Let me demonstrate for you. I twist on the lead leg, and as I do, my punch comes up. By twisting, I get the maximum mechanical advantage behind the punch. It's extremely effective for coming up between an opponent's guarding arms. Let me show you with the use of Sam. Once again, if Sam adopts the full guard position here. Now I'm going to turn Sam slightly so you can see it just a little bit better. Sam's hands are either side of his jaw. If I've thrown a strong hook and he keeps his hands to the side, or he lets his hands drift slightly apart, this is my cue, my opportunity to throw the uppercut. I twist on the lead leg, I pivot, and the hand comes right up the target and hits the chin. I could also throw it to the body there. The 4 essentials are still there, in that the guarding hand, the passive hand, guards the cheek and the ribs. You keep the front side soft and flexible, and as you turn, you keep your shoulder close to your chin. And as you punch, you twist throughout the motion. Okay, now let's show you some application on the pads with Frank. Frank. To start with, we'll show you the lead uppercut slowly. I pivot on that support leg, the lead leg, and as I pivot there, okay, my power comes up vertically. My passive hand is guarding, my cheek is against my shoulder. This might feel cramped at first, but you must remember your opponent's going to try and hit you. And if you can stay tucked throughout the motion, you're going to be safer. You can also throw the uppercut with the rear hand. Again, I'll show you slowly. You pivot and turn, your whole body's rotating. Again, you get extra rotation because your body's at a 45-degree angle to start with. But also you're using a strong arm, so you're getting more distance, more rotation, more power. The uppercut is a knockout. Used in conjunction with hooks, they are classic close-range hand weapons and worthy of a great deal of study. I'm now going to move you over to the shaped bag. The thing about a shaped bag is it is designed specifically for working hooks and uppercuts on. In this case, I'm going to throw an uppercut to the body, so I go to the lower slope. If I was hitting to the head, I'd come to the next level. The uppercut is worth working on both the focus mitts for accuracy and the bag for power. Employed together with sparring, it makes your techniques very, very sharp indeed. The next technique, the shovel hook, flows naturally out of the hook and the uppercut. Is a technique which is actually halfway between the two. It gets its name from the angle of attack, which is 45 degrees. Imagine someone shoveling. The shoveling action brings the punch up there, and that's how it's used. It's used in a 45-degree motion, either off the front leg or off the rear leg. The lead or left shovel hook is a particularly strong weapon for reasons which will explain themselves when I bring Sam into the picture. Sam. If we change places here, you'll get an idea. Can you adopt the full guard, Sam? There are two targets in particular where you can affect a body knockout. One is the liver. It's located on this side of the body. If I just lift Sam's elbow, it's a triangular organ, half on and half out of the rib cage. The small ribs, which are meant to protect it, in actual fact, when hit, will move in and strike the very organ they're meant to be protecting. The pain is incredible and will drop your opponent. What's more, by adopting a full guard, what he's doing is showing us where it is. If you see where his elbow is, that's my target. If Sam moves that rear hand for any reason, there's where I'm going to hit. If his arm strays too far forward, I'm going to hit. If it stays where it is, I can still affect the shot by moving slightly off to my left and hitting behind the arm. The shovel hook works exactly like an uppercut or a hook in that you rotate on the lead leg here, and that 45-degree angle is there. I can hit Sam here, but if he keeps his guard tight and locked in on his liver, I can now step off in this direction and actually throw the shovel hook to his solar plexus. People don't often think about vital points in terms of sport. They only think of it in terms of self-defense. But kickboxing is a knockout art. The quicker you can get your opponent out of there, the better. Your lungs are here. When you breathe in, there's a strip of muscle along the base called the diaphragm. It has to drop down in order for you to inhale. When you exhale, the diaphragm lifts up and forces the air out. By striking the solar plexus at a 45-degree angle, you drive the diaphragm upwards and it goes into spasm. That's when you get the condition we call winded, when you try to breathe and you simply can't. You can't get the air in. After a split second or so, your diaphragm relaxes and you inhale. But that split second in a kickboxing ring will see the end of the fight. Watch again the shovel look in action. Liver, solar plexus. Rotate on that foot throughout the motion and you'll have a very strong technique. Let me bring Frank in at this point and show you it on the pads. Frank will hold the pad at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to twist and hit the pad. I can use the shovel look from the right-hand side and get extra rotation here. The shovel look is sometimes called the body assassin. So powerful is its effect. Hit the liver, hit the solar plexus, and you'll get your opponent out of there and win the match. Our next technique is the bolo. The bolo is an unusual punch. It takes its name from a knife used by Filipino cane workers. The looping action resembles the action of swinging a machete and cutting down sugar cane. It's a technique which isn't often found in boxing texts or kickboxing texts. It's a technique worth a lot of study because it can transfer a tremendous amount of power onto the target area. And the power comes not really from the body, but is arm generated. We're going to show you now how that works. We're going to talk you through the basics of it and then show you some applications of it. The first thing you've got to notice is that there's one movement only of the rear foot when you use a front bolo. That's off to the side. That in itself is unusual. As you step off to the side, you loop your hand out, the very thing we suggested you didn't do with a hook. We throw it wide and then we bend it at the elbow and cut the angle. If I were throwing a hook at Sam, the punch actually describes a true arc. If I threw it and continued the motion, I'd actually come round to the same place. A bolo is different. It's looping out, bending the elbow and cutting the angle. This makes it extremely hard for your opponent to read because you can bend your elbow at any point in the motion and you can vary the degree of bending of the elbow. So by introducing this variation, he cannot really pick up on the technique. Moreover, as you throw the shot, it's taken outside of his eye line and he can, and frequently does, read it that you've missed. So it's out, but then it cuts and comes home and hits. It's an extremely good shot. What we've just shown you is a horizontal bolo, but you can throw a bolo in a rising motion and indeed in a diagonal motion. But we'll come on to that in a minute. I'm going to bring Frank in now and show you how this works on the pads. I'm going to do this slowly so you can pick up. My right foot travels outside, and my left hand loops really wide and cuts, hitting here. Now there's not much body rotation, and because you've already made your step, the movement isn't transferring in. The step is merely to create the angle. Watch. The bolo can be used off the front hand or the rear. Off the rear, because your right arm for most orthodox people is stronger, the power is even greater. This time you take a step with the left leg and hit across with the right. If you don't know what you're looking for, it looks like a wild haymaker, but it's not. It's a very, very sophisticated shot. Remember, you're varying how much you're going to throw the shot out and when you're going to bend the elbow. This gives you a great deal of control, and it makes it very, very hard for your opponent to adjust his guard to meet it. The bolo is a very strong punch. What we've just shown you there is horizontal bolo. Let me show you a diagonal one. The difference here is that your punch comes down almost at a 45-degree angle. So instead of coming around and shortening the arc, we're coming over here. Lastly, we can try it as a rising punch. And indeed, if you've heard the term bolo before, this is probably where you've seen it. A lot of Hispanic professional boxers use it. It looks like an uppercut, but once again, instead of describing a true arc, it whips in. As I throw the punch here, it loops around, and from any point onward now, I can bend my elbow from here and hit the target, or from here, or indeed from here. The power, not from the body, not from movement, but from the arm. It's a knockout. If you're in real trouble in a fight, in that ring and you're under pressure, a looping bolo just underneath the heart will throw out your opponent's timing and rhythm and possibly stop the fight. The next technique we're going to show you is a spinning back fist. Our next technique is the spinning back fist. Like the bolo, it's a very unusual technique and used as an ambush weapon. Let me demonstrate the basics. You spin toward your opponent, and as you do, you'll keep the striking hand, the right hand, high. You must, as in all spinning techniques, look over your shoulder as you turn so you can see the target before you unload the attacking weapon. So you spin here, see your opponent, see the target, and throw the arm in a flat arc here. You'll notice my passive hand, the guarding hand, is still protecting me. Should you commit too much to the swing, should you forget about your guard and miss, you'll leave yourself wide open. So to emphasize again, keep the passive hand tight, turn, look over your shoulder, and let the fist come out in a flat arc. I'm now going to use Sam to show you the application. This technique can be used as part of a combination or when you disengage from a clinch. I'm going to show the jab as a rangefinder to set the spinning back fist up. In this case, as I throw the jab, Sam moves his rear hand across and parries, thus leaving his chin unguarded. I now spin, bring my hand out in a flat arc and connect with the jaw or the temple. Watch again. I throw the jab. Sam commits to a parry and leaves his chin unguarded. I now spin, see the target, and let the hand come out. I'm now going to use Frank to show you on the pads just how this works. Frank. We're going to use just the one pad and we'll work off a jab. As I throw my jab here, I now know where my opponent is. And as we said earlier on with Sam, if he moves his hand across the guard, he leaves the target exposed. Now you spin round and bring that arm in a flat arc. Okay, fast. It's a knockout technique. Be careful. As I said before, some rule systems don't allow you to use spinning back fist, but some do. It's worthy of study. It's a strong ambush weapon, and you should include it in your arsenal if you get the opportunity. Okay, let's move on to kicking. We're going to start by saying a few things about kicking in general. First off, the legs are longer and stronger than the arms. Now at first, it seems that the arms will be quicker than the legs, but think about it. The bigger the car engine, the more power. There's bigger muscles in your legs, and if your flexibility is good enough and you train hard enough, your legs will move faster than your hands. If you think about dexterity, you can take your hand, touch your nose, touch the top of your head, touch your ear. You're not too surprised by it. Try it with your foot. We use our hands all the time, and because of that, we forget that if we're going to use our legs, we've got to bring them up to the same level of dexterity. Consider what you'll do tonight. You'll go home, you'll get to your front door, you'll put your hand in your pocket, select your key by touch alone. You'll take that key out of your pocket, put it in the lock, turn it half a turn, quarter of a turn, walk in, put the key back on your pocket, and not even give it a second thought. Well, people are paying millions of pounds with robots just to try and get them to perform those simple actions. Is it difficult? Well, put your foot in your pocket, select your key by touch alone, put it in the lock, turn it half a turn. Now you can see the problem. Your legs are longer and stronger, but they don't have the same dexterity. Your training must incorporate ways to make your legs accurate, like your hands. Sean. If you're going to use your legs as weapons, they've got to respond like your hand. You should be able to stand on one leg and kick your opponent repeatedly without putting your leg on the ground. You should be able to control that kicking action. You should be able to kick his body, the front, round and hook. And you should be able to do it in a way that creates power and speed. We're going to start with the most simple of kicks. But from all things, you set the foundations deep, you'll be able to make the building tall. Sean, over here. The lead leg front kick should be thought of as a jab with the leg. It's a respect getter. If you use it properly, you'll stop your opponent running in and overwhelming you. You step in with your rear leg behind the front leg. You pick your front leg up and you point your knee like a gun sight. That's important. Your knee is a hinge joint. When you straighten the leg, what your knee points at is what you'll hit. I'm going to aim at the centre of Sean's body. Reason? Think about it. Whenever you see a man aim a gun, a pistol, he spreads his legs for a good base and points at the centre of the body. If you kick up, shoot up, you still hit a target. Hit or shoot down, target, left or right, a target. That's why they're aiming at the centre of the body, and that's why you should put your lead leg front kick in the centre of the body. Point the knee at the centre, you'll kick the centre. The striking area is the ball of the foot, so your toes need to come back. Step in with the rear leg. Pick the front leg up, point with the knee, fire the kick in, and push with your hips over the last phase to create power. Here. Here. Okay. Now that leg has to be as alive as your lead jab. It's got to constantly stay in your opponent's line of attack to cause him problems. But without power, it won't deter him. Let's bring Frank in at this point with the kick shield and show what you can do. As an attack, the lead leg front kick uses the transference of energy through the movement. So as you push in, you go through the kick shield. Here. Throughout the action, you must keep your guard up. It is instinctive to throw your arms out for balance and to gain power. But if your opponent blocks your kick and counters, your guard will be nowhere. Watch again. You can also throw the lead leg front kick in close. Sean again. If you throw shots at your opponent, you can make him move his guard. Come this way a bit more, Sean. If I throw a 1-2 here and then a couple of body hooks, Sean's guard comes out to counter the hooks. My front kick goes to the body. As he broadens his guard to cope with the hooks, he opens up the central area. So without a step, my leg comes up, drives in. Thank you, Sean. Frank again. Now, this doesn't look very strong, but it really does penetrate the body. Here, in close. The lead leg front kick should flick in and out like a snake's tongue, just like the jab. It should punish your opponent when he comes in by having enough power to hurt and deter him. It is also a natural counter to a jab. Sean again. Sean adopts the full guard, but when he throws the jab at me, I'm going to use the same technique with the leg to mirror him, using a longer, stronger weapon. He throws the jab, I lean back, fire the kick. Again. So, you can use the leg jab to counter a hand jab very effectively. Next, we'll move on to the rear front kick, which in actual fact equates to the right cross. From here, you pick your leg up once more into the cocked position and point your knee where you want to kick. If I just take Sean's hand back out the way so you can see the target area, I pick it up, snap the leg forward and push with the hips. As I do, I drive into the center of his body. This is the equivalent of a cross. And like the cross, it has much more power. It's coming from further back. The leg is traveling 2, maybe 3 feet more. Therefore, the power is more. Frank. Remember to keep your guard up throughout the attack. At the end of the day, energy plays a large part in how effective your fighting is. Jabs and simple kicks, lead leg front, rear leg front, are the most energy efficient. If you throw extravagant techniques, flying techniques, spinning techniques, which we'll come on to later, yes, they have lots of power, but they drain your energy. My instructor, Jeff Britton, was a shrewd martial arts instructor. He said to me, your energy is like a bank account. Spend it wisely. A pound at a time. Okay, let's show you those same techniques to the head. But a word of warning before we start. These kicks are devastating when used to the head. Lead leg front kick and rear leg front kick can knock your opponent completely out. They're very difficult to practice in sparring, and a lot of people don't use them in sparring. In application, they're devastating. Let's see if we can show you what we mean. Sean. Because your foot is coming off from the floor, it acts almost like an uppercut in that it comes between your opponent's guard. You pick the leg up here, point the knee at the chin. Remember, the knee is a hinge joint. What you point the knee at is what you'll finish up hitting. You pick the leg up, fire the kick in, here. Up, fire the kick in. Off the rear leg, it's the same, but of course, you've got more power. A rear leg front kick to the head is absolutely devastating. Up and in. Up and in. These techniques can stop a fight straight away. To give you some idea of the power, I'm now going to call back Frank and show you on the focus mitts. Okay, lead leg front kick. Rear leg front kick. These are man stoppers. You should practice them with care, particularly in sparring, but work them on the focus mitt for accuracy and on the big bag for power. Now we're going to move you on to the roundhouse kick. Okay, the next technique we'll look at is roundhouse kick. The roundhouse kick can be thought of as the workhorse of kickboxing. In terms of energy, you can throw the roundhouse kick and not burn very much at all if your technique's good. The power you get is very, very good, and the speed you get is very, very good. Front kick is arguably the fastest of kicks, but roundhouse will give you speed and power. Okay, let's bring Sean on again and I'll talk you through the basics. Sean? The most important thing to remember about a roundhouse kick is that you rotate. The standing foot starts by pointing at your opponent, but at the end of the kick, it's virtually pointing backwards. That rotation is extremely important in terms of power. It is important that your body powers the leg, not your leg pull your body into position. I'll say that again. You must remember to rotate the standing leg so that your body powers the kick and not your kick pull your body into position. The basics are these. You pick your leg up to the side, here, here. You then rotate on your standing leg and bring your leg around in an arc and connect with his ribs from the side, here. Watch the foot this time. Note at the moment that it's pointing at Sean. Now see the finish position. It virtually describes 180 degrees. Okay, connection. You're going to hit with the instep here. That's very important, but you can also hit with the shin. It should be pointed out that kicks in kickboxing are all above the waist level. There are no kicks to the thighs under this rule system. The roundhouse kick can also be thrown to the head. It's a very, very potent weapon when used to the head and accounts for quite a few knockouts from leg kicks. I'm going to ask Sean to position his glove so that he can take the impact of the kick. Okay, roundhouse to the head, roundhouse to the body. But there are some variations, and I'm going to ask Sean again to change position so that I can show you the variations. If you sidestep with your lead leg, it creates a tremendous angle for a back leg roundhouse kick. Moreover, if your opponent commits to a technique, like a cross or a rear hook, it turns his body towards you and you can impact across the entire width of his body. We're going to do this slowly to begin with. Sean, if you could raise your hand just a little bit more. As the right cross comes, you sidestep to the left, lift the knee, pivot and kick his body. Here. You can see the kick goes all the way across. One more time, Sean. As he punches, you sidestep, get out of trouble. Lift that knee, turn and throw the kick across his body. The problem with it is although it's very strong, there's two actions. Therefore, no matter how fast you do it, it'll be slower than if you could combine them. If you do combine them, you get a very powerful kick indeed. It's a body shift roundhouse. Now, it looks a bit like a jumping kick, but a jumping kick takes you up high. This barely gets you off the ground, just enough to shift your entire body weight in. So, as Sean throws the punch this time, what I'm going to do is move my body in at the same time. Move back a bit, Sean, please. Thank you. As he throws it, here. Again, here. So I'm moving my body and throwing the roundhouse kick at the same time. It's a very, very powerful kick. We have one more variation to show you. And this technique comes from Thai boxing. We're going to change places and show it. This technique here is called a crocodile kick. Roundhouse kicks come up at a 45-degree angle or around horizontally. The difference with a crocodile kick or descending roundhouse is, as the name suggests, it comes down and the target area is the neck. I'm going to ask Sean to drop his hands to the side so you can see the technique more clearly. I pick my leg up, and instead of coming round, I bring it over and drop it down, here. This is a very hard technique to avoid, and if you hit your neck, you're going to be knocked out. Once more. The leg comes up high, over the top of his shoulder, and descends into the neck. Here. Here. The sidestep roundhouse, the body shift roundhouse, the crocodile kick or descending roundhouse are all potent variations, ways of foxing your opponent, bringing extra bits towards the power, speed, and deception of the technique. We're now going to show you those kicks on the pads and on the shield. Frank. We'll show the basic roundhouse to begin with, off the rear leg. Once again, we explain that the leg comes up to the side, you turn and you kick, using the instep and the shin as the contact area. The idea is to drive through, not hurt his ribs, but break them. You try and get as much power into the technique as you can. If you can finish your opponent with a body kick, you can get out of there. The faster you get out the ring, the safer you'll be. Okay, this time we'll show the kick and a body shift. Frank, if you could move the pads to this side of your body, here, and the other one as well, please. Okay. First the side step, then the body shift. A little bit flatter. Up. That's it. Now the body shift, moving and kicking in one. Now let's show them on the shield. While we're waiting for Frank, let's re-emphasize the points we're looking for. We're bringing that leg up to the side. We're rotating on the support leg. And we're driving our leg round, connecting with the instep and the shin part. We use the focus pads for accuracy with kicks. For power, you use a bag. For mobility and power, you can use the shield. So, the roundhouse kick is the workhorse of kickboxing. Careful examination of any kickboxing contest will show you that front kicks and roundhouse kicks to the body account for 80% of effective kicks. Now we're going to move you on and show you the lead leg side kick. And now we're going to demonstrate the lead leg side kick. The lead leg side kick is a very good offensive and defensive tool. We're going to show you both variants now. Sean. Used as an attack in lead leg side kick, you step forward with your rear leg here and pick your front leg up high. As you do this, you chamber your leg for driving forward in a straight line. Your target area is primarily the body. The body is a bigger target area than the head and it's much easier to hit. But if you do aim this at the head and you hit it, it is, of course, a knockout. Once more, pick the rear leg up, chamber the lead leg side kick, and drive it in to the body. Frank. Okay, hold it in. Used as an attack, the step-in lead leg side kick is very potent, but you can also use it up close. Sean. In this case, it is not always necessary to straighten the leg. We can come back from this close position where we're in close fighting, pick the leg up and fire it through. In this way, it's almost like a stabbing motion with the heel, and it's very potent around these floating ribs. Bring the leg back, fire the kick in. Frank. Closer. So I'm here, fighting. And from there, it's up and kick. Again. The side kick is a very potent weapon when in close. It is also a very powerful offensive technique. The next technique we're going to show you is back thrust kick, but it has an alternative name, the spinning side kick, and we'll show you why now. And now the back thrust kick, or to give it its alternative title, the spinning side kick. This technique is a man stopper. Used at the end of a combination, it can bring a fight to a dead halt. It is arguably the most powerful kick in kickboxing. There is one technique which challenges it, which we'll come on to later. But either way, this kick, if landed on the target area, will stop your opponent. Let me take you through the basics. To start with, there's a spin involved. And as with the spinning back fist, it's important to remember that the head and the shoulders turn ahead of the striking limb. So, you move your front foot to the center of your stance. Now you spin quickly with your head and your shoulders, glancing over your shoulder to see the target. You chamber the leg and fire the kick. I'm now going to bring in Shaw and show you the application. Your foot moves to the center of your stance. You twist the head and shoulders so you can see the target area, in this case the body. Pick the leg up and fire it in. It can also be used to the head in exactly the same way. You can see that if it connects, the fight is over. It's very, very important, this turning of the head and shoulders. If the person starts to see the kick, they can sidestep you, and as you turn, they can ambush. So, if I turn without looking, Sean can move in this direction, and as I turn, I'm not looking as I throw the kick, he can throw a big looping punch into my face. Here. So, sidestep and loop. It's very important, therefore, to emphasize this turning of the head. I'll bring Frank on and show you against the shield. The back thrust kick is a finisher. Used together with a combination of hands, it can finish the fight there and then. Work it on the big bag for power, work it on the shield for flexibility, work it on the focus pad for accuracy. It's well worth it. The final technique we wish to show you today from the kickboxing repertoire is the spinning heel kick. I said earlier that there is one kick that possibly challenges the back thrust kick, and this is it. It uses energy in a totally different way. It uses tremendous torque power. By rotating around your central axis, you bring your leg round in a straight line and connect through the target. Mechanically, this is so strong. Because it's such a large action, you can time it, but it's far better to use after a jab. We're going to show you the basic technique and then show you one or two applications. Once again, with all spinning techniques, you turn the head and shoulders ahead of the limb that attacks. Here. Then you let your leg come round in an arc, keeping the leg straight. Sure. If I show you again, as you turn the head and shoulders here, you're watching the target area. In this case, I'm going to be hitting the side of Sean's head. For safety purposes, we're going to allow him to keep his glove in position so that we connect with that. And faster. And faster still. I said it's a large technique, and you can see what I mean. The distance from this rear heel to Sean's head must be 6, 7 feet. If your opponent sees you start to move, he'll either get out the way or move in and unload a counter. If you can engage his attention whilst you're spinning, you stand a very good chance of success. The simple, most economical attention getter is a jab. Here. Having thrown the jab into his face, I can now spin while he's dealing with that problem. This combination of simple jab and fast, devastating spinning hook kick is a very potent combination indeed. Let's show you on the pads. Frank. Once again, we'll show you the basic technique on the pad, and then we'll show you the jab spinning heel kick. Now we'll show the jab spinning heel kick. Come forward a bit. The spinning heel kick is an unusual weapon. It travels so far and so fast, it's worthy of attention. But let me take you right back to the beginning, when we talked about the jab and energy expenditure. If you're fighting over 3 rounds, 5 rounds, 7 rounds, 10 rounds, 12 rounds, the longer the fight goes on, the more your energy level drops. Your energy level is a bank account. If you've got £100 to spend, you can throw 100 jabs or 25 pound spinning hook kicks. You've got to make your choice on your energy expenditure. That technique used correctly will bring the fight to an end. Just make sure you're fit enough to use it at the right time. We're now at the end of offensive techniques. Think back over what you've learned. Each technique is like a building block. At first, you can't see how it fits into the overall picture. But the more you collect, the better you construct something worthwhile. Go back over what's been said, look at the points of emphasis and try and incorporate them into your own training. Remember, hours of training are very, very important. There's a great musician saying, an amateur practices till he gets it right, and a professional practices till he doesn't get it wrong. That's good advice for any martial artist to take on board. Hopefully you'll follow us on our next journey, which will deal with defensive techniques.